Once a seemingly unstoppable force in the music world during the 1970s and 1980s, the Commodores met a sorrowful fate, dissolving for reasons shrouded in mystery. The familiar faces of their original lineup have vanished, each member charting their own path and slowly drifting apart from the group. Yet, personal decisions were not the sole factor. The weight of internal conflicts and the struggles they endured as a band also played a role in their unraveling. To uncover the full story behind their choices, just watch until the end of this video. The first member of the Commodores that many people noticed was Lionel Richie. Reportedly, amidst their success growing and the peak of their popularity, the Commodores decided to take a break from recording and touring. The hiatus, which initially seemed like a pause to rejuvenate and regroup, ended up marking a pivotal turning point in the band's history. During this time, Lionel Richie, one of the group's most prominent members and lead songwriters, embarked on a solo journey encouraged by Motown, the label that had guided the Commodores to fame. Richie began working on a solo album that would soon catapult him into a new stratosphere of stardom. Richie's debut solo album turned out to be a massive success, featuring chart-topping hits that showcased his talent as a songwriter and performer. The overwhelming reception to his work not only solidified his status as a global star, but also convinced him to fully pursue a solo career. This decision, however, did not sit well with all the members of the Commodores. For a band that had built its identity and achieved collective triumphs as a unit, Richie's departure felt like an abandonment to some. William King, one of the original members of the Commodores, shared in an interview the emotional toll Richie's decision had on the group. He revealed how the departure created a sense of hurt and betrayal, particularly because Richie kept promising to return after each solo project. According to King, the group held on to hope, waiting for Richie to come back and reintegrate into the fold. But as time went on and Richie became more entrenched in his solo career, those promises proved hollow. From Richie's perspective, his departure wasn't as deliberate or calculated as it may have seemed. In various interviews, he has explained that he never intended to leave the Commodores permanently. When he first began working on his solo material, he genuinely believed he would return to the group. However, as he immersed himself in solo projects, Richie discovered the joys of working independently. The freedom of not being tied down to the dynamics and decision-making of a group appealed to him. For an artist with Richie's ambitions and creative energy, the solo path offered an unencumbered avenue for self-expression and exploration. This growing realization made it increasingly difficult for Richie to go back to being part of a collective. The pull of solo success, coupled with the artistic independence it provided, outweighed his initial intentions to return to the Commodores. Despite this, Richie has expressed in retrospect that his departure was never meant to hurt the band or its members. His decisions were driven by personal growth and opportunities he couldn't ignore. For the Commodores, however, Richie's prolonged absence and eventual departure left a deep mark. The waiting and uncertainty surrounding his potential return were hard to reconcile. As King described it, the emotional strain and dashed hopes were difficult to forgive. After a prolonged period of ambiguity, the group made the difficult decision to move forward without Richie. While they continued to produce music and perform, the process of adapting to this new reality was not without its challenges. After Lionel Richie left the Commodores, the group faced the challenge of maintaining their momentum without their iconic lead singer. Richie's departure marked the beginning of a transitional period for the band. To fill the void, they brought in Skylar Jett as a new co-lead singer. Jett, a talented vocalist, was tasked with carrying the torch and continuing the legacy of a band that had become synonymous with soulful hits and emotional ballads. However, the changes within the group didn't stop there. Thomas McClary, a founding member and a key figure in shaping the band's sound, also decided to part ways with the Commodores. McClary, who played guitar and contributed significantly to their musical identity, sought to pursue his own solo career and establish a gospel music company. In a recent interview, McClary shared his perspective on why he and Lionel Richie chose to leave the group. McClary revealed that the dynamics within the Commodores had begun to shift. He observed that some members seemed to lose their enthusiasm for the music. Distractions from personal pursuits and life changes created a noticeable difference in the band's energy and commitment. McClary, who remained passionate about the band's mission, felt like he had to shoulder the responsibility of keeping the group focused and motivated. Reflecting on the situation, McClary described his role as being akin to that of a coach on a sports team. "Even if you're not the one scoring the points, you still want the team to win," he said, emphasizing the importance of collective effort and dedication. However, despite his efforts to maintain cohesion, it became clear that the changes within the group were inevitable. Adding to the challenges was the loss of Benny Ashburn, the band's longtime manager and an instrumental figure in their success. Ashburn's death deeply affected all the members of the Commodores. He had been a steady guiding force for the group, helping them navigate the complexities of fame and the music industry. McClary described this period as a tough time for the band, as they grappled with personal loss and professional uncertainty. Following his departure, McClary collaborated with Lionel Richie on several high-profile projects, working with artists like Kenny Rogers and Diana Ross. One of their most notable contributions was writing the title track for the film Endless Love, which became an iconic song in its own right. These collaborations showcased the enduring creativity of McClary and Richie, even as they pursued separate paths from the Commodores. The Commodores, meanwhile, continued to evolve. McClary's exit prompted the addition of guitarist and vocalist Sheldon Reynolds, who brought fresh energy to the group. Reynolds' tenure with the Commodores, though impactful, was relatively short-lived, as he later left to join the legendary band Earth, Wind & Fire. This left the group once again facing the challenge of filling a critical role. In the absence of a dedicated guitarist, William W. King, a trumpeter, and another founding member, stepped up to take over guitar duties during live performances. King's versatility and commitment to the band allowed the Commodores to continue performing, though the adjustments underscored the group's resilience in the face of constant change. A few years after Lionel Richie and Thomas McClary departed from the Commodores, the group experienced yet another significant change with the departure of Milan Williams, their talented keyboardist and one of the founding members. Milan, known for his creative contributions to the band's unique sound, left under circumstances that reflected both personal conviction and the evolving challenges within the group. Before his departure, Milan had a harrowing experience that could have ended tragically. While piloting a single-engine plane over Phoenix, Arizona, something went terribly wrong. Forced to make a crash landing on a busy freeway, Milan managed to bring the aircraft down safely despite the high-risk situation. He and the band's press agent, who was also on board, escaped without injuries. However, the plane caught fire upon impact and was completely destroyed. The incident, while terrifying, left Milan and his passenger profoundly grateful to have survived unscathed. This close call was a stark reminder of life's fragility and Milan's resilience under pressure. Milan's departure from the Commodores a few years later stemmed from a matter of principle. During the apartheid era in South Africa, the band was invited to perform there, a prospect that Milan could not support. Apartheid, a system of institutionalized racial segregation and discrimination, had drawn international condemnation, and Milan chose to take a stand against it. He refused to perform in South Africa, a decision that created significant tension within the band. His stance was a reflection of his moral convictions, but it also underscored the challenges of balancing personal beliefs with collective responsibilities in a group setting. Ultimately, Milan's refusal to compromise led to his departure, marking the end of the Commodore's original lineup. His exit was a poignant moment for the band, as it symbolized the dissolution of the team that had propelled them to fame with their distinctive, funky sound and electrifying performances. Milan's contributions to hits like Machine Gun had helped define the Commodores' early identity, and his absence left a void that was hard to fill. Following his departure, the Commodores began to shift their musical style. They moved away from the funk-driven sound that had been their trademark and leaned more heavily into ballads and a smoother R&B style. While this transition helped them adapt to changing musical trends, it also signaled a departure from the energetic and innovative roots that had made them so successful. For fans of their early work, this change was bittersweet, as it marked the closing of a dynamic chapter in the band's history. Sadly, Milan's story took a heartbreaking turn in his later years. After leaving the Commodores, he was diagnosed with leukemia, a form of cancer that affects the blood and bone marrow. Milan fought valiantly against the disease, enduring 2 years of treatment and struggle. However, in 2006, he succumbed to the illness, leaving behind a legacy of talent, resilience, and integrity. Following the departures of Lionel Richie, Thomas McClary, and Milan Williams, the group experienced another significant blow with the exit of Ronald LaPread, their bassist and one of the founding members. LaPread's departure added to the mounting difficulties for the band as they struggled to preserve the spirit and chemistry that had defined their early success. Ronald LaPread was an integral part of the Commodores' sound, anchoring their music with his smooth and innovative bass lines. His contributions can be heard on many of their biggest hits, including Brick House, where his funky bass groove became an unforgettable element of the track. However, like several other members of the group, LaPread eventually chose to leave. His decision to step away from the Commodores marked the end of another chapter in the band's history and created further challenges as they tried to maintain cohesion amidst the departures of their core members. After leaving the band, LaPread made a major life change by relocating to New Zealand. This move marked a significant transition for him, not just geographically but also personally and professionally. While he found a new life and opportunities abroad, he also faced his own set of challenges. Adjusting to life after the Commodores was no easy feat, as the stability and camaraderie of the band had been a central part of his life for many years. In interviews, LaPread has reflected on how his departure was bittersweet, as it allowed him to pursue a fresh start but also distanced him from the group that had been like family. For the Commodores, LaPread's departure further weakened the original spirit of the band. Each member had brought unique talents and energy to the group, and as these key players left one by one, it became harder to replicate the synergy that had once propelled them to the top of the charts. The loss of Milan Williams in particular had already marked a turning point, as the band's musical style began to shift away from the funky, high-energy sound that had defined their early years. With LaPread's exit, the Commodores were left to rebuild yet again, navigating the challenges of reinvention in an ever-changing music industry. The cumulative effect of these changes was significant. The Commodores had built their reputation on the strength of their original lineup, whose chemistry and collective creativity had been their greatest asset. With each departure, the band lost not only musical talent, but also the personal dynamics that had made them so special. These shifts created an identity crisis for the Commodores, as they tried to adapt to the loss of foundational members while still appealing to their loyal fan base. The departure of the members made many fans suspicious of the Commodores' potential conflicts. In interviews, King has shared that he has spent over 30 years attempting to reunite the group, navigating the complexities of time, personal differences, and changing circumstances. Despite his best efforts, the elusive reunion has remained a dream for fans who long to see the magic of the original Commodores rekindled. Reflecting on the band's history, King has been candid about how Lionel Richie's departure affected their trajectory. Initially, the group believed they would weather Richie's exit without much difficulty. They had spent years crafting their sound together, blending the talents of all members into a harmonious whole. Within the band, there was a strong belief that their success was built on collective effort rather than the contributions of any single individual. However, to the public, Lionel Richie was the undeniable face of the Commodores, a charismatic lead singer with a golden voice and a knack for writing memorable hits. This perception proved to be a double-edged sword. While Richie had indeed penned many of the group's most beloved songs, the rest of the band played a crucial role in arranging, producing, and performing them. However, as Richie's solo career soared, many fans assumed he had been solely responsible for the Commodores' success. This widespread misconception hit the group hard. After Richie's departure, the band faced a stark reality. Much of their audience had been drawn to the band primarily because of Richie. The loss of his star power led to a noticeable decline in popularity, affecting not only their public image, but also their financial stability. Thomas McClary, another founding member and a close collaborator of Richie during their time together, has offered his perspective on the internal dynamics that complicated the band's journey. In interviews, McClary has openly acknowledged the challenges of jealousy and ego that arose within the group. He believes that envy can be a destructive force, particularly in a band where individual talents often shine. Despite any tensions that may have existed, McClary has always been quick to praise Richie's abilities. "Lionel is very talented. He has a great voice and is a wonderful writer," he remarked, underscoring the undeniable contributions Richie made to the band's success. Thomas McClary, a founding member of the Commodores, has been vocal about his desire to reunite the original lineup of the band, even as obstacles persist. In his candid reflections, McClary has highlighted some of the internal tensions that have prevented a reunion, including his views on William King's role in the group. McClary hasn't shied away from expressing frustration, remarking that King has often been a stumbling block to progress. "William is probably the least talented one of us all, and he has been the main stumbling block," McClary stated in an interview. This sentiment is compounded by McClary's belief that another member, Walter Orange, has allowed King's influence to steer the group in unproductive directions. According to McClary, this dynamic has hindered reconciliation efforts, creating additional layers of complexity in an already fragile relationship among the remaining members. Despite these challenges, McClary remains enthusiastic about the possibility of a reunion. "Yes, I would love it," he said, expressing a deep longing to see the Commodores come together again for their fans and for the legacy they built as a band. McClary has not only expressed his hope for a reunion, but has also actively worked toward making it happen. Over the past 3 decades, he has devoted considerable time and effort to this goal, motivated by a belief in the enduring power of their music and the connections it creates with audiences. He fondly recalls a special moment in 2008 when Lionel Richie invited him and Ronald LaPread to perform together in New Zealand. The performance was met with overwhelming enthusiasm from fans, reaffirming the public's appetite for the Commodores to reunite. "The fans love seeing us on stage again," McClary shared. "In fact, Lionel Richie, Ronald LaPread, and I actually performed in New Zealand recently, and we performed in New Orleans, and 65,000 people showed up. So there's an appetite for the reunion, obviously." The success of these performances underscored the cultural and emotional resonance the Commodores still hold, even decades after their peak. It demonstrated not only the band's timeless appeal, but also the potential for a reunion to reignite their magic. McClary pointed to another opportunity for a reunion in 2009 when Lionel Richie expressed interest in having the group perform together at the Essence Music Festival in New Orleans. While the idea seemed promising, attempts to involve the other band members faltered due to lingering bitterness and unresolved conflicts. McClary lamented the stubbornness of some members, noting that some had not spoken to Lionel Richie in 40 years. "Come on, you've forgotten what you're mad about," he said, his frustration evident. In addition to internal strife, the Commodores also faced another major problem, financial and legal. The legal troubles began in earnest in 2013 when Thomas McClary, one of the founding members of the Commodores, began performing with his own group under the name the Commodores. This move created confusion among fans, as William King and Walter Orange were also performing under the same name, albeit with a lineup of different musicians. Fans were left wondering which group represented the true Commodores, and this ambiguity threatened to tarnish the legacy of the band that had once ruled the charts with hits like Easy, 3 Times a Lady, and Brick House. The dispute escalated into a legal battle, with King and Orange taking McClary to court to protect their rights to the Commodore's name. The case centered on the question of who had the legal and moral authority to represent the iconic group. In 2018, a Florida court issued a ruling that sought to resolve the matter. The court determined that King and Orange, as the remaining original members actively performing under the Commodore's name, held common law trademark rights to it. This decision was based on the fact that they had maintained the band's legacy and continued to perform and record music as the Commodores through a company they had established. As part of the ruling, McClary was prohibited from using the name the Commodores to promote his own band or music. However, the court acknowledged his foundational role in the group and allowed him to describe himself as an original member of the Commodores in his promotional materials. While this was a partial victory for McClary, it also underscored the deep divisions within the group and the difficulty of navigating their shared legacy. For King and Orange, the court's decision was a validation of their efforts to preserve the Commodore's name and brand. They argued that their continued performances and dedication to the group's identity justified their exclusive rights to the name. However, the ruling did little to heal the rift between the members. McClary viewed the outcome as a limitation on his ability to celebrate his contributions to the Commodore's storied history, while King and Orange remained frustrated by what they saw as an attempt to undermine their stewardship of the band. These legal disputes reflect broader challenges faced by legacy bands. As members age and pursue solo careers or other interests, questions about ownership, branding, and revenue sharing often arise. For the Commodores, the stakes were particularly high, given the enduring popularity of their music and the significant revenue generated from royalties, merchandise, and live performances. The court ruling also highlighted the complexity of defining a band's identity. While McClary's contributions as a guitarist, songwriter, and founding member were undeniable, the court prioritized the continuity provided by King and Orange, who had kept the Commodore's name alive in the public eye. This decision reaffirmed that a band's identity is not only tied to its past, but also to its ongoing presence and activity. The challenge for the Commodores does not stop there. Over the years, the Commodores experienced a significant evolution in their musical style, shifting from their original funky, danceable sound to a smoother, more commercial pop approach. This transformation reflected not only the band's desire to adapt, but also pressures from the rapidly changing music industry of the 1980s and 1990s. The decade brought both challenges and opportunities as the band worked to balance their identity with the demands of a broader audience. In 1984, the Commodores welcomed James Dean J.D. Nicholas as a co-lead singer, sharing vocal duties with drummer Walter Clyde Orange. This lineup change came during a period of transition for the band, following the departure of key members like Lionel Richie and Thomas McClary. Nicholas's addition was part of an effort to reinvigorate the group and maintain their relevance in an industry that was becoming increasingly competitive. The move marked a departure from their earlier days, where their sound was defined by funky rhythms and dynamic instrumentation. Despite these challenges, the Commodores achieved a resurgence in 1985 with the release of their last album under Motown Records' Night Shift. The album featured the titular track, Night Shift, a heartfelt tribute to Marvin Gaye and Jackie Wilson, two iconic artists who had passed away in the early 1980s. The song struck a chord with listeners, blending emotional lyrics with a soulful melody that honored Gaye and Wilson's lasting legacies. Night Shift became a major success, reaching #1 on the U.S. R&B charts and earning the Commodores a Grammy Award for Best R&B Performance by a duo or group with vocals. The success of Night Shift provided a much-needed boost for the Commodores during a time when many fans and industry observers had begun to question the group's future. The song demonstrated the band's ability to adapt and create music that resonated with a new generation of listeners while paying homage to their roots. It also showcased the vocal talents of J.D. Nicholas and Walter Orange, proving the Commodores could still deliver powerful performances without Lionel Richie. However, the shift toward a more commercial pop sound was not without its drawbacks. Longtime fans who had been captivated by the Commodore's original funky hits like Brick House and Machine Gun expressed disappointment with the band's new direction. The lively, bass-driven grooves that had defined the group in the 1970s were replaced with softer, more melodic tunes. While the change allowed the band to attract new listeners, it also alienated some of their core fan base. This evolution wasn't solely a creative choice by the Commodores, it was also a reflection of the broader changes sweeping through the music industry. By the mid-1980s, record labels were prioritizing artists and bands that could deliver cross-genre appeal and chart-topping hits. For legacy bands like the Commodores, this often meant compromising their signature styles in favor of music that aligned with contemporary trends. The rise of MTV and the increasing emphasis on visually driven pop music further pushed artists to conform to a more mainstream sound. Navigating these changes was a challenge for the Commodores. While their willingness to evolve helped them remain visible in a competitive industry, it also led to internal and external tensions. The group faced the difficult task of redefining their identity without losing sight of the elements that had made them successful in the first place. This balancing act was particularly critical during the 80s and 90s, when music was becoming more fragmented and listeners had more options than ever before. In 2010, the Commodores honored Michael Jackson with a heartfelt re-recording of their Grammy-winning song Night Shift. This decision stemmed from a poignant moment during their European tour on June 25, 2009. While performing at Wembley Arena in London, the band received the news of Michael Jackson's passing. The shock and sadness of the moment profoundly impacted them, and the following night, during their performance in Birmingham, lead singer J.D. Nicholas made an impromptu change to the song's lyrics, incorporating Michael Jackson's name as a tribute. This spontaneous homage resonated deeply with audiences, inspiring the group to re-record Night Shift, with updated lyrics that honored not only Marvin Gaye and Jackie Wilson, as in the original, but also Michael Jackson and other iconic R&B singers who had passed away. The re-recording symbolized the Commodores' enduring connection to their musical roots and their commitment to honoring the legends who paved the way for artists in the R&B genre. It was also a testament to their ability to adapt their classic hits to reflect the evolving legacy of music and the figures who shaped it. Fans appreciated the tribute, finding it both nostalgic and touching, as it kept the spirit of these late icons alive. Throughout their illustrious career, the Commodores have sold over 70 million albums worldwide, cementing their place as one of the most successful R&B and funk groups of all time. Known for their smooth melodies, soulful lyrics, and captivating performances, they have won over fans from diverse backgrounds. Songs like Easy, 3 Times a Lady, and Brick House remain timeless classics that continue to resonate with audiences across generations. Their contributions to music have been widely recognized, earning them a place in both the Alabama Music Hall of Fame and the Vocal Group Hall of Fame. They have also received 9 Grammy Award nominations, taking home the coveted prize for Best R&B Performance by a Duo or Group with Vocals for Night Shift in 1985. These accolades underscore their influence on the music industry and their lasting legacy as pioneers of R&B and funk. As of 2020, the Commodores lineup included 3 key members: Walter Clyde Orange, J.D. Nicholas, and William W. King. They were joined by a talented 5-piece band known as the Mean Machine, which helped bring their iconic sound to life during live performances. Together, they continued to tour the world, playing in arenas, theaters, and festivals, and ensuring that their music remained relevant for both longtime fans and new listeners. Despite the challenges they have faced over the decades, lineup changes, creative differences, and the evolving landscape of the music industry, the Commodores have remained dedicated to their craft. They have shown a remarkable ability to adapt while staying true to the essence of their music. Their live performances not only celebrate their rich catalog of hits, but also pay homage to the musical legends who inspired and influenced them. What do you think about the challenges the Commodores faced and the fate its members chose? Leave us your comments in the section below. We hope you have found this helpful video. Don't forget to leave a like, share, and subscribe to the channel if you like it. Thank you for watching this and see you in the next videos. Goodbye.